Expeditions Rome is a single-player tactical turn-based CRPG where you'll be determining the destiny of Rome with your party and your legion. You'll be leading 3 war campaigns across Greece, North Africa, and Gaul. And apart from the combat, dialogue and the way you handle it also plays a large role in the game. This game is a historically inspired story of political intrigue and personal drama, and it takes place in the 1st century BC. Expeditions Rome officially releases on PC on January 20th of 2022, and thanks to THQ Nordic, I was able to get my hands on a review copy and play around 25 hours of the full version to bring you this initial spoiler-free overview and review. Chapter markers will be below. If you do plan on picking up this game, or any other game for that matter, and you'd like to support the channel in the process, I'm putting an affiliate link to the GOG store below in the description and pinned comment. Let's jump right in. Expeditions Rome offers players the choice between 4 difficulty levels: easy, normal, hard, and insane. And separate from the difficulty level, you can also select the option to turn on combat death, which means permadeath for party members that bleed out during combat, and game over if you, yourself, or a story companion ends up dying. You can also turn on Iron Man mode, which makes it impossible to save scum, as the game in this mode will restrict you to a single autosave. I think it's great that both of these modes are offered as separate options from choosing your difficulty level. For the sake of this review, I left off Combat Death and Iron Man, but I did choose to play the game on hard. After 20 or so hours, I feel like the game has been hard, so they represented this difficulty level well. In character creation, you get to choose your gender, first name, and nickname, but you must choose from a list of historical Roman family names. This game uses non-customizable portraits to represent your character in dialogue, and in my opinion, this is simply an outdated way for doing this. The overall lack of character customization options in this game, however, make it a bit easier for you to actually have a portrait that somewhat represents the character that you create. There's only 3 face options to choose from for each gender, and 5 skin colors, 3 hairstyles, which does kind of make sense for the lore, 8 hair color choices, and 5 height presets. So really not the best character creator ever, which is always a bummer in RPGs, but not the end of the world. Really, I just wish there were some more face presets. You also get to choose between 3 perks that will give you unique dialogue options when trying to persuade people specifically. You don't actually choose your class right away in character creation. This choice will be presented to you after the first combat tutorial, where you fight off some pirates. There are 4 classes in this game, each of which offer 3 subclass skill trees. You are not beholden to a single skill tree, but obviously the more points that you put into one tree, the more you unlock in that subclass. The Princeps is a heavy armor, shield-wielding frontline warrior, and it offers the subclasses of Defender, Vanguard, and Veteran. The Valet class is a warrior based on agility and speed, and offers the subclasses of Assassin, Duelist, and Brawler. The Sagittarius class is your ranged archer class, and its subclasses are Marksman, Hunter, and Sniper. And the final class is the Triarius, which is focused on debuffing enemies and buffing allies. The Triarius offers the subclasses of Medic, Flagbearer, and Destroyer. These classes are focused on some realism, so there's no magic classes or anything like that in this game, and you can only have so many active skills assigned at one time. Each character can swap between 2 weapon sets during combat, and each specific weapon, including being unarmed, offers their own weapon-specific skills, allowing you to really try some unique combinations. Overall, I am enjoying the class and weapon system. It's not crazy complicated, but it certainly does have some depth to it, and the choices that you make here do truly matter. The game's graphics are alright. Nothing special, but in my opinion, good enough for this game. You're seeing the game on a mixture between the high and ultra settings in this video. The only place that I got to explore so far is Greece, which was quite beautiful, but the background environments could certainly use some work. Let's just say that overall the visuals were good enough to where I do find myself excited to see what North Africa and Gaul look like, and even Rome, but I would definitely have appreciated a little more detail in the areas that your party actually physically walks around in. Animations in this game are nothing special, some are a little weird at times, while others look good. For a historically inspired game like this, I was hoping for some more cutscenes, but the only real one that I got was in the beginning of the game. There are some gameplay scenes that play out in front of you in a similar way to Pathfinder's gameplay scenes, which is kinda cheesy if you ask me, but I guess a company has to pick and choose where they want to allocate their resources. The user interface in the game is quite nice looking, and it's very simplistic in a good way. It's easy to navigate and things are explained fairly well. For example, when you hover over an enemy in combat, you can see their stats and status effects. But if you don't understand what a certain status effect is, simply press E and a nice quick description will pop up. I do want to say though that as nice as the interface looks, it sometimes also gets quite annoying as it can really start to cloud up your screen at times, and I don't see many options to temporarily hide things. When you're moving your mouse around, things will be constantly popping up on your screen, which does kill the immersion a little bit in my opinion, and like I said, it can get quite annoying. The game does allow you to turn on and off combat hexes, or dots, which is the grid that combat will take place on, and I am happy that they included this option in the settings. In terms of the game's performance, on my 2070 Super GPU, I have no performance problems on high and ultra. The game seemingly runs pretty good. According to Steam's FPS counter, I'm usually getting between 55 to 60 FPS, which does seem a bit low compared to some other games, but it's perfectly fine for a CRPG. As far as bugs and glitches go, I'm quite impressed. There has not been any game-breaking ones, at least not ones that I knew that I encountered, and I really only encountered a few noticeable bugs that ended up sorting themselves out. Overall, it was well done in the bug category for a CRPG. Now let's get into the main aspects of this game, starting with the story and companions, without giving away any spoilers, of course. Expeditions Rome starts out in the year of Lucius Licinius Lucullus, who is a historical Roman general and a friend of your family's. Lucius is currently leading legions outside of Rome, as Rome was prosecuting several wars of self-defense, most notably in Greece. Back in Rome, your father, the head of your highly respected noble family, passed away unexpectedly. Your mother believes that a senator had poisoned him to ultimately take his place and claim your family's property by placing a bid to marry your sister immediately following your father's death. In fear for your life, your mother secretly arranged for you to be smuggled out of Rome to join the legions and hopefully eventually come back with newfound military power to take back what is rightfully yours. In other words, you're walking in the footsteps of Julius Caesar as a custom character. The game starts you off in Greece as a soldier under Lucius, who is a friend of your family's, and right away you know that your goal is to gain favor and respect, but perhaps most importantly power, to then return to Rome one day. This historical fiction story does seem to educate well on what life was like in the 1st century BC in the Roman Republic, although I am no historian. The coolest thing is that I do find myself having a Google search bar at the ready to look up certain terms and events, something I can't say I've ever done for any other game. The story and the way they present it through the dialogue seems to be one of this game's strong points. But it wouldn't be a story without companionship, and Expeditions Rome has plenty of that. In the beginning of the game, you'll meet 4 special story companions: a seemingly wise old man, a proud, successful Roman soldier, a gladiator who loves bloodshed, and a very mysterious character that's definitely hiding something. About 10 hours or so into the game, I met another companion character, but I won't say anything more on that. Each companion has a backstory and of course a personality. Although they are not as deep as some other CRPGs out there, I have enjoyed learning more about the characters, and also seeing their reactions to decisions that I make. There is an approval system. In this game, you can also hire a bunch of regular Praetorians and substitute them in and out with your companions. Sometimes a companion may be injured and needs time at the dispensary, or perhaps you just don't like one of them and you want to put them on blacksmithing duty. Don't expect Dragon Age depth here, but in my opinion, they are well done. When speaking to others, the game uses a pop-up text dialogue, accompanied with voice acting for all except your own character. Since I mentioned voice acting, I do want to point out that it is very well done in this game. In dialogue, there are many options to dig deeper into conversations and ask more questions, or you can look for answers that push the conversation forward in a quicker fashion. Since I'm only on my first playthrough, it's hard to truly comment on how well done the player agency is and whether or not your choices have a real impact on the game. I'd have to play another time and do things differently. But I will say that at the very least, the game does give off the illusion that you do have some real decisions to make. After reading some opinions on Expeditions Vikings, I would be inclined to believe that Expeditions Rome is really good in this category. One of the most common big decisions that you'll be presented with is whether or not you want to kill someone, and that someone is usually an important prisoner of war. And I will say that in one case I decided to let someone live, and later on in the game I used that same person to negotiate the release of some of my captured troops. If I didn't end up sparing him, I doubt I would have been able to do that. Combat is turn-based and it uses a fairly easy to understand action point system. When you enter into combat, the first phase is the preparation phase, where you get to move your party around a little bit to obtain a desired formation before combat actually begins. After that phase, the real combat begins and your party members can take their actions in any order. This game is not individual character turn-based, it's party-based. You can even order one character to move or attack, and while that character is performing their action or movement, you can switch over to a different party member and begin their turn. This can really help speed up combat, and I gotta say I do appreciate having the option. Each character has one action point to spend each round, which is represented by the orange square, and most of your skills, which will be your weapon skills or your class active skills, require the use of your action point. For movement, the game uses a hex grid, which can visually be turned on or off, and the amount of hexes that you can move is represented by the number to the right of your action point. Your movement speed is determined by several factors, armor being one of the most important factors. Like many other games, you can choose to sacrifice your action point to move further. Be prepared though, as you can move a lot further in this game than most other turn-based CRPGs, and yes, there are attacks of opportunity. Positioning in Expeditions Rome is perhaps the most important thing for combat success, so don't expect to just walk straight up to your enemies and attack. You should be considering things such as using your shield tanks to post up and hold the position, having your archers use cover, ensuring that your assassins can get flanking positions, and so on. Also note that there are many mechanics behind the combat. Armor, shield strength, deflection, focus point for light infantry, flanking, buffs, debuffs, taunts, armor shredding, incapacitation, damage types, tactical equipment, reach, and much more. Overall, I gotta say that I'm really enjoying the combat. I've had some really tough encounters that required several attempts, something that I do like to experience in a game. You can also save the game during combat when it's your team's turn, and trust me, taking advantage of this will be part of the combat experience for many of you. One negative thing for the combat that I want to mention is that the game sends you off on some stealth missions, or at least missions that are supposed to start off with some stealth. But the catch here is that there's no stealth mechanics. You simply walk up to your enemies, and it's quite a missed opportunity in my opinion, and it's certainly very immersion breaking. Last thing on combat I want to mention is that not every combat encounter in this game is going to be combat focused. Sometimes the focus will be on movement and getting your party to a certain area. Sometimes it will be on completing a non-combat objective during combat. And then other times you will of course just be killing everything that you can. My biggest complaint with this game is the lack of truly being able to explore, and when you do explore, it's oftentimes very underwhelming. There's very little environmental interaction in this game, and when you do come to a part where you can venture off the beaten path, it's oftentimes a short adventure to nothing. Very few boxes and crates can be looted in this game, and you don't really find random items lying around everywhere. Like down this cliff, for example. Heading down here, there's literally only one lootable crate, and everything else is basically nothing. You'll see this pretty much right away after your first big encounter in the game. After you have defeated your enemies, most of you will walk around and then likely be disappointed. This game seems to be much more focused on small instanced areas that serve as a way to complete a very specific objective rather than just exploring things. This is likely going to be an aspect of the game that may keep some of you away. Like I said, it's not an open world game in the sense that your party goes into an area and then can walk from location to location. There's nothing seamless about this game. Instead, the game uses a world map fast travel system to get you and your legion to different locations, and for the most part you can choose where you want to go. When fast traveling on the world map, your party and your legion will move separately. When you click to move, time will pass as you travel, and you and your party and legion will consume some water and rations. Also, as time passes, certain events will occur, such as enemy troops attacking a garrison, or random events that are represented through text that can end up turning into real combat. So passing time with no purpose could eventually lead to some consequences. I'll get into the army versus army battles and resource management here shortly. You will have some bases and campsites where you can go to turn in quests, go to get new quests, talk to companions, manage your legion, craft, trade resources, and more. Some of these camps you can build up and upgrade over time by adding new structures such as dispensaries, armories, factories, stone walls, hospitals, forges, and so on. Building an armory will open up crafting for you at your camp, and it's a fairly straightforward crafting system. Have the necessary materials from looting or salvaging unused items, and then appoint one of your troops to man the armory. Then you gotta wait a little bit, and then you eventually get your new or upgraded gear. Some crafting does involve RNG for stats and skills, so keep that in mind. To upgrade the facilities in your base, such as having an armory, you'll need to have taken control of strategic resources on the map, such as farms, lumber mills, and mines. Building up your base is important in this game, as it will not only benefit your personal party, but also your entire legion. Your base is also where you go to recruit new legionnaires, because the more legion battles that you get into, the more soldiers that you will lose. You can also talk to a merchant to exchange resources for other resources, such as denarii for rations, or medicine for slaves, which you will need to build structures. Legion versus Legion combat is how you progress on the world map. Send your legion to attack an enemy garrison, and if you succeed, you can then attempt to pacify the entire area, and then begin farming resources in preparation for your next attack or defense. Like I said before, enemy troops will attack your outposts, and if they win, you will lose that area and have to retake it. If you find hints that the enemy will be attacking an outpost in the near future, you'll want to move your legion to that outpost as soon as possible, because if your troops are not present when the attackers attack, you'll instantly lose that outpost. The way that the Legion versus Legion combat is handled in this game is through a system where you'll choose stratagems, which are like cards that represent different battle strategies. These cards are randomly pulled from a pool of stratagems that you can earn in the game, and each one will tell you the chance for success, chance of losing troops, etc. It mainly becomes a decision of risk versus reward and resource management. When you choose a stratagem, the game will automatically start that phase of battle, and you can watch it take place in the form that you're seeing on the screen. Eventually, this will likely become really boring, so you'll find yourself simply clicking auto-resolve after choosing a stratagem. I appreciate that they put that in the game. The Legion vs. Legion combat is not really a fun part of the game in my opinion, but I can see why the devs wanted some system in the game where we, the player and the Legion, get to somewhat control our legions in their battles. There's a lot more to the world map and the Legion combat than what I explained here, but hopefully that gives you somewhat of an idea as to what to expect. I'm certainly enjoying the party-based combat much more than the Legion combat, and at times the world map system can feel repetitive and sometimes boring. But with that said, I still think it's better that it's in the game the way that it is now rather than it not being in the game at all, if that makes sense. I almost forgot about the audio, but like I said earlier, this game has a fully voice-acted narrative, and it was definitely really well done. The music itself in the game didn't really stand out to me like it does in some other RPGs. I don't think Expeditions Rome is going to be on your top soundtracks of all time list, but it's certainly not bad, and it seemingly does represent that feeling of historic Rome. In summary, Expeditions Rome has its strengths and its weaknesses, but overall I have been enjoying my experience. The story is really good and the dialogue is well presented. Fans of Roman history will certainly be able to lose themselves in this world, and even though overall it's historical fiction, so it's not non-fiction, I still think many players can learn a lot about this important time period, which adds a lot to the fun in my opinion. The party-based combat has been a huge plus to the game, and there's been several encounters where I'm at the edge of my seat. At this point in the game, every battle I feel like I learned something new, and then I want to try it out in another combat encounter. A very engaging combat system. The story and combat alone might be enough to pull some of you in. Where it falls short though is in the exploration department. You're conquering Greece, North Africa, and Gaul, but most of your player exploration is kept to fairly small instanced areas. On top of that, don't expect to be exploring for a ton of cool loot and items, because like I said, the environment is not very interactive. The world map and fast travel system I thought was pretty neat, although it gets quite repetitive, and this especially goes for the random encounters that pop up as you move across the map. Controlling your legion and sending them out to attack and defend outposts is good in theory, but it also gets quite boring the more that you do it. Resource management is key, which does add more engagement to these systems. I think it would be really awesome if the game turned into an RTS type of game for the Legion battles, but I get it, it's probably too hard and requires too many resources to add such a large system to this game. It's not horrible, the stratagem system, but it's not particularly fun. In my opinion, you should be someone who at the very least doesn't mind map conquest systems. And if that's you, I think overall you will enjoy the game in its entirety. I do want to also point out that there is a lot to take in. Things are presented in a fairly simplistic way, but there's so many things to do and think about that at times it can feel a bit overwhelming. There might be also times where you're just stuck because you're forgetting about a mechanic that was taught to you 5 hours ago in the game. In my opinion, this is a game for those of you who don't mind taking things slowly and going through that learning phase. For $44.99, Expeditions Rome does seem to offer plenty of content, and I think if you like Roman history, map conquest systems, and traditional CRPG systems all bundled together, you will enjoy this game. Just remember that with all of these different systems present in the game, although it's quite impressive that everything seems to work well, some areas such as party exploration and even the Legion battles may come across as a little bit of a resources spread too thin type of thing. This is not going to be an all-time favorite game for myself that I'm talking about for years to come, but I also do not regret playing it. I think if you like all of the systems that I showed you in this video, you'll definitely enjoy Expeditions Rome. And that'll be it for this overview and initial review. I really appreciate you guys that made it all the way to the end. If you do end up having interest in purchasing this game, like I said before, if you use my affiliate link to the GOG store, it will support the channel. After you click the link, any game that you buy within 7 days will actually support the channel. So thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.